Most men think strength in love means being desired, being chosen, being impossible to replace. I once believed that too. But real strength in love is far quieter and far more uncomfortable. It is not about how intensely you feel. It is about how much of yourself you keep. Every man reaches a moment when love stops feeling romantic and starts feeling revealing. It exposes your fears, your attachments, your boundaries, or the lack of them. This video is not for men who want techniques. It is for men who want clarity. Because the strongest man in love is not the one who holds on the longest, but the one who knows exactly when, and why, to let go. If you recognize even one of these signs, you are no longer becoming someone else's ideal. You are returning to your own. And once that happens, love will never control you again. Welcome to the Stoic Love Wisdom channel. This is where we share lessons about love, real-life experiences and tips for building strong relationships. In today's video, I will share with you 9 signs that show you become a stronger man in love. These may be things you have never thought of. If you are looking for a deeper understanding of love and how to develop relationships, don't miss this video. Before watching the video, find a quiet space and put on your headphones to feel every word I am about to share. Relax and enjoy this journey with me. Are you ready to start this journey? Let's begin. Sign number 1, you no longer beg to be loved. There was a time in my life when I believed love had to be earned. Earned by explaining myself. Earned by proving my worth. Earned by staying, even when staying slowly erased me. Back then, I thought persistence was strength. I thought chasing was passion. I thought tolerating disrespect was loyalty. I was wrong. The first sign that a man becomes stronger in love is this. He stops begging to be chosen. Not because he becomes cold. Not because he stops caring. But because he finally understands something most men learn too late. Love that requires you to lose your dignity is not love. It is attachment disguised as devotion. A strong man does not negotiate his value. He does not plead for attention. He does not convince someone to see what should be obvious. He understands a simple Stoic truth. What must be forced was never meant to flow. When you stop begging, something profound happens inside you. You stop reacting. You stop overthinking every delayed message. You stop interpreting silence as a personal failure. You realize that another person's inability to love you properly is not proof of your inadequacy. It is information. And a disciplined man respects information more than emotion. In the past, I used to ask questions like, why am I not enough? What can I do better? How can I make her stay? Now, the questions are different. Is this aligned with who I am? Is this connection peaceful? Does this cost me my self-respect? Stoicism teaches us that we control our actions, not outcomes. Begging is an attempt to control an outcome that was never ours to command. A man who has grown understands this deeply. He shows interest clearly. He communicates honestly. But once he senses hesitation, manipulation, or emotional games, he does not chase clarity. He steps back. Not in anger. Not in pride. But in self-command. This is where many misunderstand strength. Strength is not saying, I don't need anyone. Strength is saying, I want connection, but not at the cost of my inner order. A man who begs gives his emotional authority away. A man who stands firm keeps his center intact. And here is the paradox few talk about. The moment you stop begging for love, you become far more attractive. Not because you play games, but because you radiate something rare. Self-sufficiency of the soul. You are no longer asking to be chosen. You are observing whether the other person is worthy of walking beside you. This is not arrogance. This is self-respect refined by experience. If you've reached this point, where silence no longer terrifies you, where walking away feels calmer than staying and shrinking, where you would rather be alone than misaligned, then understand this clearly. You have crossed a threshold. You are no longer a man who begs for love. You are a man who allows love to meet him at his level. And that is the first undeniable sign that you have become stronger in love. Sign number 2, you can love deeply, and still walk away. When you are young, you believe that love means endurance. You stay longer than you should. You tolerate what quietly damages you. You confuse emotional attachment with commitment. I did that too. I once believed that if I loved hard enough, if I stayed patient enough, if I sacrificed enough of myself, the relationship would eventually reward me. It didn't. The second sign that a man becomes stronger in love is this. He understands that loving deeply does not require staying indefinitely. A strong man does not fear separation. He fears self-betrayal. This is a difficult truth to swallow, especially for men who love sincerely. Sometimes walking away is not abandonment. It is alignment. Stoicism teaches us that nothing external is worth the loss of inner order. Not pleasure. Not validation. Not even love. A man who has matured emotionally knows this. If a relationship demands constant self-suppression, it is not intimacy, it is erosion. In the past, I stayed because I was afraid. Afraid of starting over. Afraid of being alone. Afraid that leaving meant I had failed. But strength changes the definition of failure. Failure is not leaving a relationship that harms your spirit. Failure is staying and calling it loyalty. When a man grows, he stops seeing walking away as weakness. He sees it as discipline. He no longer asks, "Can I endure this?" He asks, "Should I?" This shift changes everything. A strong man does not threaten to leave. He does not use distance as manipulation. He does not announce ultimatums. He simply observes. He watches patterns instead of promises. He listens to actions more than words. And when he sees consistent misalignment, he exits calmly, without drama, without revenge, without closure speeches. Why? Because he understands something crucial. Closure is an internal act, not something another person gives you. Loving deeply does not mean losing clarity. In fact, true depth requires clarity. You can feel sadness without clinging. You can miss someone without returning to chaos. You can love what was, and still respect what must end. This is Stoic love. Not numb. Not cold. But disciplined. A man who can walk away is not heartless. He is centered. And paradoxically, this ability creates safety, for himself and for others. Because a man who can leave is a man who stays by choice, not fear. If you recognize this in yourself, if you no longer hold on just because of history, if you no longer confuse intensity with depth, if you no longer sacrifice peace to preserve connection, then understand this. You have evolved beyond emotional dependency. You are capable of love without chains. Attachment without self-erasure. Connection without captivity. And that is the second clear sign that you have become a stronger man in love. Sign number 3, your emotions are no longer controlled by her reactions. There was a time when a single message could determine my entire day. A delayed reply meant anxiety. A short sentence meant doubt. Silence felt like rejection. Back then, I didn't realize something important. I had outsourced my emotional stability. The third sign that a man becomes stronger in love is this. His inner state is no longer dictated by another person's mood, attention, or approval. This doesn't happen because he stops caring. It happens because he starts governing himself. Stoicism teaches a brutal but liberating principle. If you allow external things to control your emotions, you are not free. Many men believe emotional reactivity is proof of depth. They think intensity equals love. But intensity without control is not depth, it is volatility. A mature man understands the difference. In the past, her warmth made me euphoric. Her distance made me restless. My emotional world rose and fell based on signals I could not control. That is not connection. That is emotional dependency. When a man grows, he learns to pause. He notices the trigger. But he does not immediately obey it. He asks himself, is this a fact, or is this my interpretation? Is my reaction aligned with who I want to be? This space between stimulus and response is where strength is born. A strong man does not chase reassurance when uncertainty appears. He does not demand explanations for every emotional fluctuation. He does not panic at inconsistency. He observes. And observation brings clarity. He understands that people have moods. They have stress. They have inner battles unrelated to him. And even when distance is personal, he knows this truth. Someone else's emotional availability is not a measure of his worth. This realization changes the entire dynamic. He becomes calm where others become anxious. He becomes grounded where others become reactive. And calm is deeply unsettling and attractive in a world addicted to chaos. This is not emotional suppression. It is emotional regulation. A Stoic man does not deny his feelings. He simply refuses to let them command his behavior. He can feel disappointment without lashing out. He can feel desire without losing composure. He can feel uncertainty without demanding control. And because of this, he stops over-explaining. He stops defending himself unnecessarily. He stops chasing emotional certainty from someone who cannot offer it. He remains centered, regardless of outcome. Here is the quiet power in this. When your emotional state is stable, you stop negotiating from fear. You speak clearly. You act deliberately. You walk away if necessary. Not in reaction, but in alignment. If you recognize this in yourself. If her tone no longer destabilizes you. If silence no longer feels like a threat. If you can remain composed even when outcomes are uncertain. Then you should know. You are no longer emotionally led. You are emotionally literate. And that is the third undeniable sign. That you have become a stronger man in love. Love, like a mirror that reflects ourselves. When you learn to love, you are also learning to look back at yourself. What are your strengths? What are the wounds that need to be healed? And understanding yourself will help you understand the other person more deeply. That is also the reason I share on this channel, to help you see love as a journey to nurture your soul. If you find these things meaningful, click like to spread that value. And if this is your first time coming to the channel, don't forget to click subscribe with the notification bell, so we can always accompany each other in the next lessons. Leave a comment below, share your true feelings after listening to this part. Who knows, your little story may touch the heart of someone in need. Now, let's continue on the next part of this journey. Sign number 4, you no longer try to control or change the woman you love. When a man is inexperienced, he believes love means shaping. Shaping behavior. Shaping priorities. Shaping feelings into something that feels safer to him. I used to believe that if I explained myself clearly enough, If I loved patiently enough. If I waited long enough. She would eventually become what I needed. She didn't. And more importantly, she shouldn't have had to. The fourth sign that a man becomes stronger in love is this. He stops trying to control or change the woman he loves. Not because he gives up. But because he understands a deeper truth. What must be managed is not love. It is insecurity. Stoicism teaches us that we can only govern what is within our control. And another human being's nature is not within it. A mature man accepts people as they are, not as potential projects. He does not fall in love with who someone could be. He pays attention to who they are. In the past, I mistook anxiety for responsibility. I thought monitoring behavior meant caring. I thought correcting patterns meant commitment. But control does not create safety. It creates resistance. When a man grows, he releases the illusion of influence over another's inner world. He does not interrogate. He does not pressure. He does not try to fix emotional unavailability. He allows. And in allowing, clarity appears. A strong man understands this quiet law of relationships. People reveal themselves when they are not being forced. So he steps back. He observes consistency instead of listening to promises. He notices effort instead of explanations. And he understands that incompatibility is not betrayal, it is information. This shift is painful at first. Because control gives the illusion of security. But once that illusion dissolves, something far more powerful takes its place. Self-respect. A man who does not attempt to control another person automatically maintains control over himself. He sets boundaries instead of rules. He communicates standards instead of demands. He walks away from misalignment without resentment. This is Stoic love in its purest form. Not passive. Not indifferent. But principled. He understands that love cannot be negotiated. Desire cannot be argued into existence. Commitment cannot be forced. And because he no longer tries to change her, he gives her the greatest freedom of all. The freedom to choose. And here is the paradox. Only free choice reveals real devotion. If you recognize this in yourself, if you no longer feel the need to monitor, correct, or persuade, if you trust actions over words, if you accept reality without bargaining, then understand this. You have stepped out of fear-based attachment. You are no longer trying to secure love. You are allowing love to either meet you, or pass. And that is the fourth clear sign. That you have become a stronger man in love. Sign number 5, you set clear boundaries, and you respect your own. There was a time when I believed boundaries were walls. That setting limits meant pushing people away. That saying, no, would cost me connection. So I tolerated things I shouldn't have. I stayed silent when something crossed the line. I called discomfort understanding and self-betrayal compromise. The fifth sign that a man becomes stronger in love is this. He sets clear boundaries, and he honors them without apology. A man who lacks boundaries will call himself flexible. A man who has suffered will call it what it is. Fear of loss. Stoicism teaches us that inner order must be protected. Not enforced aggressively, but preserved calmly. A strong man does not need to announce his boundaries loudly. He does not threaten consequences. He does not negotiate his core values. He lives them. And life responds. In the past, I believed love required endurance without limits. Now I understand something essential. Boundaries are not restrictions on love. They are the structure that allows love to exist without decay. A man with boundaries knows his non-negotiables. Disrespect. Inconsistency. Emotional manipulation. Chronic dishonesty. He does not dramatize them. He simply does not remain where they are present. This is where many men fail. They state boundaries, but they don't enforce them. And every unprotected boundary becomes an invitation for erosion. A strong man understands this painful truth. If you do not respect your own limits, no one else will. So when a line is crossed, he does not argue. He does not escalate. He withdraws access. Calmly. Decisively. Not to punish, but to preserve alignment. This is not emotional coldness. It is emotional hygiene. He knows that tolerance of the wrong behavior teaches people how to treat him. And here is the Stoic discipline behind it. He does not set boundaries to control others. He sets them to guide his own actions. I will not stay in environments that disturb my peace. I will not explain myself repeatedly to someone who refuses to listen. I will not chase clarity where confusion is a pattern. These are not ultimatums. They are personal laws. A man who lives by personal law becomes predictable. And predictability creates trust. Paradoxically, boundaries do not make you distant. They make you grounded. People feel safer around someone who knows where he stands. And a woman respects a man who does not bend himself to be accepted. If you recognize this in yourself, if you no longer fear being misunderstood, if you choose temporary solitude over permanent self-disrespect, if you walk away without resentment when your limits are crossed, then understand this clearly. You have stopped loving from fear. You are loving from structure, from clarity, from self-command. And that is the fifth unmistakable sign that you have become a stronger man in love. Sign number 6, love is no longer the center of your life. When I was younger, love was the axis around which everything revolved. My mood, my motivation, my sense of direction. If the relationship was good, life felt meaningful. If it wasn't, everything else collapsed. That was not devotion. That was imbalance. The sixth sign that a man becomes stronger in love is this. Love no longer sits at the center of his life, purpose does. This is one of the hardest transitions a man makes. Because society teaches us that love should complete us. Stoicism teaches the opposite. A complete man does not seek completion. He seeks alignment. A strong man understands that love is a part of life, not its foundation. When love becomes the center, everything else becomes conditional. Your self-worth rises and falls with approval. Your direction shifts with someone else's emotions. Your peace becomes negotiable. A mature man refuses this structure. He builds his life first. His values. His work. His physical and mental discipline. His inner order. Love is invited into that life, not installed as its engine. This shift changes how he loves. He no longer sacrifices purpose for attachment. He no longer abandons his path to maintain proximity. He no longer delays growth for comfort. And because of this, his presence becomes solid. He is not always available. Because he is not empty. He does not rush. Because he is not desperate. He does not cling. Because he is moving forward regardless. This is often misunderstood as emotional distance. It is not. It is self-direction. A Stoic man knows that when a man has no center, he will orbit anyone who offers warmth. But when a man has purpose, love becomes a companion, not a destination. And here is the quiet truth most never say aloud. A woman does not want to be the meaning of a man's life. She wants to walk beside a man who already has one. When love is not the center, it becomes healthier. There is less pressure, less expectation, less fear of loss. The relationship breathes. A man who has made love his center fears losing it. A man who has made purpose his center can enjoy love without gripping it. If you recognize this in yourself, if your goals no longer disappear when you fall in love, if your discipline remains intact, if your sense of direction does not dissolve in attachment, then understand this. You are no longer seeking love to save you. You are offering love from a life that is already structured. And that is the sixth clear sign that you have become a stronger man in love. There are things in love, only when we take a step back, sit down quietly, can we truly understand. I share these stories not to teach you how to love, but so that you can find the answers for yourself. If what you just heard touches your heart, please click like as a way to spread this positive energy to more people. And remember to click subscribe, because there are many profound perspectives on love waiting for you in the next videos. Now, let's continue the remaining journey together, because the most precious things are sometimes at the end. Sign number 7, you speak less, and your actions carry the weight. There was a time when I talked too much. I explained myself. I justified my intentions. I promised outcomes I could not control. I believed words could secure love. They couldn't. The seventh sign that a man becomes stronger in love is this. He speaks less, and lets his actions define him. This is not silence out of fear. It is restraint born from clarity. Stoicism teaches that character is revealed through action, not declaration. A man who knows who he is does not need to announce it. In the past, I tried to convince. Now, I demonstrate. A mature man does not overshare his feelings in moments of uncertainty. He does not argue his intentions. He does not defend himself against imagined accusations. He understands a simple rule. If something is true, it will show. If it is not, no amount of explanation will save it. So he stops filling silence with noise. He becomes precise with his words. When he speaks, it is intentional. When he commits, it is visible. And when he withdraws, it is complete. This creates a powerful contrast. In a world addicted to constant communication, restraint feels unfamiliar, even unsettling. But restraint signals self-command. A strong man knows that excessive talking is often a sign of inner instability. The need to explain usually comes from the need to be understood. The need to be understood comes from the fear of being misjudged. A man who is centered does not fear being misjudged. He allows misunderstanding to exist. Because his behavior remains consistent. Consistency does more than persuasion ever could. He arrives when he says he will. He leaves when misalignment becomes clear. He invests effort without announcing sacrifice. This is not emotional detachment. It is emotional economy. A Stoic man does not waste energy where it produces no return. He understands that words can be manipulated. Actions cannot. And here is the deeper truth. When a man speaks less, people listen more. When a man explains less, his boundaries become clearer. When a man reacts less, his presence becomes heavier. If you recognize this in yourself, if you no longer feel the urge to prove your intentions, if silence no longer feels like a threat, if you trust your actions to speak where words once did, then understand this. You are no longer negotiating for love. You are embodying your standards. And that is the seventh unmistakable sign that you have become a stronger man in love. Sign number 8, you are no longer afraid of being alone. For a long time, I believed loneliness was something to escape. Silence felt heavy. Empty time felt uncomfortable. Being alone felt like failure. So I filled the space. With relationships. With noise. With people who distracted me from myself. That was not connection. That was avoidance. The eighth sign that a man becomes stronger in love is this. He is no longer afraid of being alone. Not because he prefers isolation. But because solitude no longer threatens his identity. Stoicism teaches us that a man who cannot sit with himself will always attach out of fear. And fear is the weakest foundation for love. A mature man understands that loneliness and solitude are not the same. Loneliness is the absence of self. Solitude is the presence of self, without distraction. When a man grows, he stops running from silence. He enters it. He learns to hear his own thoughts without needing someone else to regulate them. He learns to experience time without filling it with validation. He learns to rest without being witnessed. This changes everything. A man who is comfortable alone does not rush into connection. He does not accept misalignment just to avoid emptiness. He does not confuse availability with compatibility. He chooses. And choice is power. In the past, I stayed in relationships because the alternative felt unbearable. Now, I understand something essential. Being alone is not painful. Being with the wrong person is. A Stoic man knows that solitude is a forge. It sharpens perception. It clarifies values. It removes illusion. When you are alone, there is no one to perform for. No one to impress. No one to blame. Only you, and what remains when everything else is quiet. This is why many avoid it. But a strong man embraces it. And because he is not afraid of being alone. He never loves from scarcity. He does not cling. He does not tolerate inconsistency. He does not trade peace for presence. His relationships become cleaner. His standards become clearer. His attachment becomes lighter. Paradoxically, this makes him deeply magnetic. Because a man who can be alone is a man who does not need love to survive. He chooses it to share. If you recognize this in yourself. If solitude feels grounding rather than empty. If you would rather be alone than misaligned. If silence no longer scares you. Then understand this. You are no longer running from yourself. You are standing with yourself. And that is the eighth unmistakable sign. That you have become a stronger man in love. Sign number 9, you choose inner peace over winning in love. There was a time when I needed to be right. Right in arguments. Right in misunderstandings. Right in proving who was at fault. I thought winning meant strength. It didn't. The ninth and final sign that a man becomes stronger in love is this. He chooses inner peace over winning, every time. This is not surrender. It is mastery. Stoicism teaches us that conflict is often the price we pay for ego. And ego demands victory, not harmony. A mature man understands something most never learn. You can win an argument. And still lose yourself. In the past, I fought for clarity. For acknowledgement. For apologies that never came. I believed if I explained myself one more time. If I defended my position more precisely. Things would resolve. They didn't. Because not all battles are meant to be fought. Some are meant to be exited. A strong man does not argue to be understood. He does not chase validation through debate. He does not engage in emotional warfare to prove a point. He steps back. Not because he has nothing to say. But because he understands the cost of saying it. Peace is expensive. And he is willing to pay for it. He knows when discussion becomes repetition. When communication turns into power struggle. When understanding is no longer the goal, control is. At that moment, he disengages. Calmly. Without sarcasm. Without resentment. This is the highest form of strength in love. To remain composed when provoked. To remain silent when ego demands expression. To walk away without needing the last word. A Stoic man understands that peace is not passive. It is actively chosen. And here is the paradox that defines maturity. The man who does not need to win is the man who cannot be defeated. Because he no longer plays games where the reward is emotional exhaustion. He chooses stillness over chaos. Clarity over drama. Distance over disrespect. If you recognize this in yourself. If you no longer feel the need to convince, correct, or conquer. If you protect your inner order more fiercely than your pride. If you leave conversations that disturb your peace. Then understand this. You have reached the final stage. You are no longer trying to win love. You are living in alignment, with or without it. And that is the ninth and final sign. That you have become a truly strong man in love. Conclusion. If you look back at these 9 signs, you may notice something unexpected. They are not really about becoming better at love. They are about becoming better at being a man. Strength in love does not come from mastering attraction, controlling outcomes, or securing permanence. It comes from self-command. You stopped begging, because you learned your value. You learned to walk away, because you refused self-betrayal. You mastered your emotions, because chaos no longer ruled you. You released control, because freedom reveals truth. You set boundaries, because peace demands structure. You centered your life on purpose, not attachment. You spoke less, because your actions became sufficient. You embraced solitude, because you no longer feared yourself. And finally, you chose peace, because ego lost its authority. This is Stoic love. Not cold. Not detached. But deeply disciplined. You are no longer chasing love to feel complete. You are offering love from completeness. And this changes everything. You no longer fear loss. Because you know how to stand alone. You no longer fear rejection. Because your worth is not being negotiated. You no longer fear endings. Because alignment matters more than duration. The man you have become does not demand love. He attracts it through clarity. And if it does not come, he continues forward, intact. This is the quiet strength few speak about. The strength that does not announce itself. The strength that does not argue. The strength that remains when everything else falls away. If you recognize yourself here, understand this. You did not lose love. You outgrew the version of yourself that needed it to survive. And that is not loss. That is mastery. Thank you for taking the time to watch today's video. I hope you have found useful lessons about love and relationships. If you find this video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. I really appreciate your support and will continue to bring valuable content in the next videos. Please continue to accompany me on my journey to learn about love and relationships. See you again and wish you happiness.